morning. Welcome to Foothills Unitarian Church. Happy Easter.
Happy Easter. I'm Walter Eskridge.
And I'm Evie Eskridge.
To begin our service of exploring stories, we have a story adapted from the Reverend Christina Leone-Tracy.
Once upon a time, there was a man with a story.
This wasn't just any old story, not one you could find on a bookshelf or hear around the campfire. This was his story and no one else's.
This story began before he was born, and this story told of his loves and fears, his dreams realized, and his dreams yet to come.
This story was complete. It told his whole life, including those bits that still existed in his imagination. In fact, this story was so complete, and he was so happy with it, that he carried it around to make sure it was safe. It was somewhat bulky and unwieldy, but he didn't mind because it was his story.
The thing about this story, though, it was very fragile, made up of many pieces and held together by only his own imagination. And so he grew more and more protective of it.
As he went about his life, he checked on the story to make sure that he was following it correctly.
He avoided adventure and unknowns because, well, they might break his story.
And then one day, the inevitable happened. Without warning, his story broke. It was unforeseen, and he hadn't done anything wrong at all.
But there it was, lying in 1,000 shattered pieces on the ground.
With the sun glinting off the pieces of the story he had so carefully protected all those years.
He was heartbroken. And since his story hadn't said to put the pieces back together, he was at a loss. What now? He sat down next to the pile of pieces and cried.
But then a group of people came out of the nearby building and saw him sitting on the sidewalk, clearly in need of help.
What's happened here?
My story, it's gone, gone.
It looks like it's here, not gone, said a child. We have to put it back together.
How will you put it back together if you don't even know me? There's no way.
The child was tenacious. Don't worry. With all of us here to help, we'll put it back together in a way you would never even expect. You never know. It might be more beautiful than before.
And so they swept up the pieces of this man's story and went together into the building from which they had emerged. They poured him some hot coffee and sang him a soothing song.
Come, come, whoever you are.
He began to feel hope that his story could be put back together. It took a long time, but they all got it all reassembled, and they added new parts, and some parts didn't even fit anymore. But that was okay. The child had been right. It was more beautiful than before.
This time, the story was held together not only by his imagination, but the imagination and support of an entire community.
It was no longer fragile or afraid of adventure. It was strong because it was held together by tough, resilient, courageous love.
For the tough love that collects all our stories and calls us ever on, we light our chalice.
Will you join us now in the words of our covenant, which begin with the word love? Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Happy Easter.
Happy Easter.